SAP, and I have got 10 years of experience in the IT field. So today we are going to discuss about basically BCC archive server and VIM integration. And today I'll be taking you guys through all the architecture and how does this entire process work. And if you have any sort of doubts in between, after the discussion, we will have 10 minutes Q&A session. There you can raise your concern and we can discuss about it. So that sound okay, right? To everyone?
Amit.
All right. So first of all, I think Siva, I heard that he is already working on the archive server and OpenText product, few of the OpenText product. But I'm not sure which product and which area he is expertise on. But let's start with the basic architecture, how this entire VIM integration works. Archive server is something, and I hope you guys know a little bit about the archive server and other BCC, ICC server. If it is not, then you just let me know. Then I'll start from the scratch. Else I'll be discussing about the architecture for entire VIM integration first.
So Amit, I'm completely new to SAP and VIM and all this because my background is in ETL. So this
All
one
right.
is. I would
Okay.
appreciate if you can go from the beginning.
All right. Okay. That's okay for me. So see, we need to basically discuss about three basic things: archive server, vendor invoice management, that is VIM, and your BCC and ICC server. So these three products, these three components rather, for entire integration with SAP vendor invoice management plays an important role for any processing of the invoice from SAP system to OpenText. So as you are rightly saying that you are completely new to this SAP and OpenText world, then first of all, you will have to understand what is SAP and what is OpenText. Here, SAP and OpenText both are different companies who are having various products for the entire integration, which they create for certain set of activities. Like in this case, the vendor invoice management, automated vendor invoice management, we will be discussing. So SAP, as far as SAP is concerned, what we are discussing in this entire demo have got nothing to do with the OpenText integration. But yes, the ERP system, which you could have heard ever about SAP system like ECC, PI, BW, lots of systems are there. So ECC is the system which we will be discussing here. That is the core component of the ERP system SAP is having at the moment in the market. So this entire VIM is nothing but there is a component launched by SAP and OpenText together. That component basically you will have to install first in SAP system, SAP ECC system, that is we usually call where we do all the business data processing first, and then after we integrate it to different system for further processing. But in this case, SAP ECC system where you will be installing the component of VIM, vendor invoice management component. That the moment you will, and that is nothing but it's an add-on. It's not a complete package or complete software. This will not be getting installed in any ERP system directly. So basically, this component is designed only for the SAP system by OpenText and SAP system development team together. So the very first thing you will have to do is to install the add-on in SAP ECC system, and then post installation configuration you will have to do at the same time. Since we are more focused towards OpenText product here, So as far as the OpenText product is concerned, we will be discussing about the archive server. BCC and ICC both are same. Earlier it used to get called as ICC. Nowadays it is getting called as BCC. So these are the two components. Basically, we will be discussing for the entire integration. As far as SAP system is concerned, you don't need to do much as a archive server or as a OpenText consultant. But yes, if you are into SAP and you know SAP, then definitely lots of other post installation steps are there that you need to perform as per the admin guide, which is usually launched by SAP as well as OpenText. So, so I think this is clear to you, right? So SAP and OpenText is both are two different companies, and both are having different products for entire integration. So is that okay for you? I mean, shall we go ahead, or do you have any confusion here?
Amit, are you asking me? This is Dinesh.
Dinesh, right. So, Dinesh, yes, I'm asking you, since I assume Shiva is already having the basic understanding
Yes.
about the OpenText and other stuff. So I'm basically asking you, since you are totally new to this entire training, right, and this entire product. So we will not be discussing much about SAP system at the moment. SAP system is something which we will be using, and we will be checking the configuration in the in the class which we will be taking further. But in this entire demo, we will be discussing basically about the VIM archive server and ICC BCC. So as far as VIM is concerned, we will be talking about only add-on part. The other integration and other post installation steps we will be discussing in subsequent class.
Okay, Amit.
All right.
And
so
one more,
now,
is there anything that you're sharing on screen, because I cannot see anything if you're sharing any slides?
No, it's not yet shared. Let me share. The moment I'll start, discussing about the architecture, definitely I'll share the slides. So, Siva, is that okay for you? Shall we go ahead with the architecture, or do you want to get something clarified before we jump to architecture part of the entire VIM configuration?
No, Amit, you can proceed. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Okay, good. So let me share my screen, guys. That is very important, and that architecture is something which is very important for any sort of training, any sort of technology, or any sort of configuration. And as far as integration is concerned, it's very important. So that architecture is something we will be discussing today. So let me share my screen, and you just let me know if you are able to see my screen. Is this visible?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So first of all, we will have to understand why this entire VIM we are using for OpenText product. All right. Since VIM is nothing but it's SAP system add-on. But at the same time, there is a very natural question: why don't we have SAP product itself integrated with SAP ECC? Why we are having the OpenText product, that is ICC and BCC? So that part we need to very much clear about why are we using this ICC and BCC. So there are two things. First thing is, when let's say any sort of document, be it PDF document, be it text document, be it document which you scan through certain physical scanner. So all sort of usually this kind of document which we use for any sort of invoice, right? I mean, if you purchase something, you get the invoice, and those invoice get processed further for your all stakeholders. So that happens in a system in the background, right? So the same stuff is getting automated nowadays with the help of OpenText product in SAP system. Let's say if you are having core component ECC in your landscape for any vendor, for any vendor's invoice to be processed automatically. It's not something that somebody will go there, it will match the data, it will figure out whether the data which vendor has claimed through the invoice are correct, or any sort of discrepancies happens there. That is something used to handle manually earlier in the SAP system by some set of consultant they had. But nowadays this entire process got automated, where only there will be a validator and another one will be processor. So there are two persons who will be involved in this entire process. One will be the validator who will validate the data. Let's say you are having SAP ECC system, and your XYZ vendor has processed or rather sent you a certain amount of or certain number of invoice to process in your SAP system, and you are going to make those payments after doing certain validation, right? So those validation will happen in the system itself, but how does this validation happen? You should be having certain set of data available in your system, and that data will validate with the invoice your vendor is trying to claim. So you need to have certain system which will be having all those data accumulated. Now the question is, why don't we have all those data in SAP ECC system itself? That is my core component. So nowadays, in an ECC system basically runs on your database, and database is nothing but your structured data, and that has got multiple costs involved. The amount of memory you are using, the amount of data you are using for this particular database, that database vendor will be charging you the amount of data you are using and the amount of memory you have licensed for. So that is something which is a bit costly to keep your data in the database. When I'm saying data, that means your invoice data. Let's say certain products got purchased back in 2019, and that data, if you want to store in a database, that data can be useful, let's say in certain odd scenario, but that data on daily to daily basis task is not useful at all, right? So that's the reason it's not recommended to store the data in your database which is not getting utilized by end users or by customer on daily basis, which is why this OpenText product like archive server has come into the picture. Now let's say you are having close to 5 GB of data every day generated by the vendors, different vendors, and those data, if you are storing in your database, over the period of time that database will grow like anything, and you will be charged by the vendors with a very handsome amount. So those issues and those difficulties of late faced by customer and then OpenText. I'm not talking about only OpenText. There are multiple vendors in the market who are basically integrating with a different ERP system for the archive server. But here we are discussing about OpenText archive server. So first of all, we need to understand where are we storing those data that we are not storing on database in SAP ECC system. So those data we will be storing in the archive server, and that is where you will be validating, you will be checking whether the claimed invoice, claimed amount, claimed let's say other information which is in your invoice are correct or not. So archive server has come into the picture, and then there is a BCC server. BCC server is nothing but it's a kind of different application, different integration, different extraction of data you are doing through SAP system. So this BCC is something which will be getting utilized by the admin of the OpenText, not for the storing any sort of data or for any history, recheck, you don't need to use any BCC server. BCC server will be utilizing only as a server where you will be extracting the data, you will be validating the data, and once the data gets validated, your processor will process the data in SAP ECC system. But yes, this entire data validation and processing will happen through archive server where your data is stored basically. So there is two things, and there is three basic component here. One is SAP ECC, another is your archive server, and third is your BCC. We will be calling BCC only since ICC is the old name. Earlier it used to get called as ICC. Nowadays we are saying it's a BCC server. So I think you are able to see my screen. So let me hover around this entire architecture. See here, there is a network theory. This is a theory system. This is again another SAP system by which any user through HTTP or web user rather, I must say. Let's say you are XYZ user, you have access to certain certain customers system URL. Let's say I am customer XYZ and you are my vendor. I have given you the URL like https:// let's say xyz.com, and then a certain path of the URL I have given to you that you can go and claim your invoice through this URL. So basically you will be getting logged into the server of customer, that is my server, through URL, and you will be treated as a web end user in this entire architecture. And basically your suppliers rather, and you are supplying certain services or raw data, or for if it's in a manufacturing industry, then definitely raw data, and if it is service industry, then you are providing certain set of service to us, and you have got certain set of invoice to claim in my system, then you will be logging to our server through this URL, but you are not knowing how this entire process will work. So basically that URL will get directed to ECC. This is the main core component where I'm hovering my cursor. So this is my core component system where my entire processing will happen. And this is my fairy system. This fairy system will basically help web user to connect to my ECC basic system, and this fairy system will have different sort of icon like launchpad. The moment you will be logging, you will be seeing you will be getting different launchpad, different tiles icon you will be getting there. So whatever the area, whatever the details you are access to login, you will be seeing those tiles in that system. So when let's say ABC user logged into my server, the NetWeaver Fury will direct the request. It will validate first whether you are allowed to that particular icon or that particular tile or that particular feature rather to access. If you are able to, if you are having the authorization, it will direct your request to ECC system, BCC. So this ECC system will be connecting. This is one way of connecting to my ECC. Another way is, let's say if customer has given you the GUI access, that user interface, let's say if you are having the access of, then you can log into SAP ECC through GUI also. And another is the mail. Let's say if you are having a certain mail I have given to, a certain email address I have given to you, that you just send your invoice to this email ID, and we will do the entire processing and validation further. So let's say xyz@payroll.com is my email address, which I have designed only for the vendors who will be using this entire email address for any sort of invoice processing. So what will happen? You as a supplier will send your invoice, that is your electronic invoice, to that email ID. So basically, there are three ways of accessing my ECC system. Basically, as an end user, you will have three mode of access to send your invoice for the further validation and processing. So first is we will be giving certain URL through which you will be accessing the tiles, different tiles as per your authorization. There you can put you upload your invoice, and further processing will happen in the ECC system. Second is email address, where you will be sending your email, and that email address will get processed further, that we will discuss later. And third is direct access to GUI. This is very rare that your customer will be giving you direct access to GUI, but let's say this is one more scenario can happen here, that you are having the access to customer ECC system through GUI. So these are the three ways you can connect. Now we will be discussing about how does, and fourth one is also there, sorry. So fourth one is, let's say you are not having access to anything. You are having a physical server, like physical scanner installed into your system. This is very old fashioned way of processing your invoice. But yes, this is one more possible case, that in your system, in your organization rather, there is a scanner dedicated for invoice processing. So you are having one scanner here, and in that scanner you are scanning your email document, and that scanner is further sending those details to customer system. But yes, there is a challenge here. When you are using your physical device, that physical device should be getting integrated with the customer archive server. Then only this entire integration will happen. Then you just need to scan your invoice in the scanner, and in the scanner itself you will be having the option, different option: process your invoice, receive your invoice, status of your invoice. You will be clicking on your process of your invoice. Then after, what will happen, this entire scanned document will go further to archive server, and from there further processing will happen. So basically, net to net, four way of doing this invoice processing can happen by a supplier to a customer. All right, till now I'm clear, right? Guys, your interaction is much required here, else I'll be not thinking that whether I'm going right or wrong.
Yes, Amit.
Dinesh, right?
Yes.
All right. So next thing is, till now I think I have I'm much discussed already about different way of processing your invoice. Second thing is, how does this entire invoice get processed in SAP archive server and BCC, the three components which we talked about. So let's say when you are sending and we will be bifurcating the entire process in two parts. One part would have these three modes: GUI, email, and the web browser. And another part will have the physical scanner. Since physical scanner is directly, let's say a supplier is a physical scanner, that physical scanner is directly integrated to your customer. So that is agreement between the supplier and the customer. So that part I'll be keeping in the part 2, and in part 1 we will be discussing about these three: GUI, email, and the URL part. So let's say I'm just considering a very basic and very famous way of processing the invoice, that is the email invoicing. Usually what happens, a customer share the email ID to supplier for processing the invoice, and supplier actually email that document to customer, and that document gets processed further in the customer system. So let's say as a supplier you have sent an email to customer email ID, and this ECC, basically this will happen through SMTP server, there is called mail server. When you email that invoice to customer, basically that email will go to customer SMTP, that is your mail server, that mail server is configured with your SAP ECC through a SCOT configuration we have. And in that configuration, definitely the email ID customer has given to supplier is integrated in ECC, SAP ECC. So ECC will check whether you have sent or supplier have sent the email ID to right recipient. Let's say I have given you XYG at the rate abc.com. This is the email ID I have given to my supplier. My supplier have sent document to abc at the rate xyg.com. Then what will happen? My system will check the recipient which is configured in the system is not the same one with the email ID where supplier has sent. So what will happen? Even though you have sent the email to customer, but you will get a response from customer system that the email ID which you have used as a recipient is not the valid one. So that back response will also get configured in the ECC. That let's say I have configured 5 vendors recipient email ID in the system. So only those 5 vendors will be getting validated in ECC. Apart from that email ID, let's say any other user ID or email ID are getting utilized for this entire processing will get response that this is not the correct email ID where you are sending your invoice to. So let's say you have sent to right and correct recipient your invoice. And what will happen? ECC will have the SCOT configuration. ECC will check this is the right recipient, and once the recipient is right, then that will go to the outbound queue of ECC. From there will be a job, SAP batch job. That batch job is basically a trigger batch job will run, and that since this entire process is automated one, you can do the entire steps manually also, but this entire process is automated one, which is why we are having the batch job running. So batch job will do what? Let's say if you are running that batch job every minute. So what will happen? That batch job will check that outbound queue where your email goes to, whether any email has come in that particular minute or not. If let's say at 5:40 somebody has sent the email ID, that invoice to that particular email ID, that invoice will go to the outbound queue of SAP ECC. From there, that particular batch job will pick that invoice and will process further. And there is definitely different status number like 71, 72, 73. There are different status for each step defined in the system that you can see further, that how many steps this entire document goes through. So you can check if let's say any issue comes up in between and any vendor's invoice is not getting processed further, then you can check there that where and which status that vendor's invoice is in. So that is something for the troubleshooting. Now let's say you have received that invoice. Now first of all, there is an integration happen between your ECC and the OpenText archive server, where your data gets or your invoice gets stored, basically archived basically. So this you can see there is an archive link, it's written there. So in ECC there is a transaction called OSC0. In that OSC0 transaction, you basically create an archive link with your archive server. And that archive link will have different configuration, different how do you set up that, those details you will have to fill in that transaction, and then you can create a different archive link, and that archive link will connect to your OpenText archive center. Now there are two things. OpenText is a server, but that will work as a complete application stack. But how does it store those data? Then this OpenText have got their own database as well. But yeah, that definitely that database size will not be as similar as your, let's say there is a HANA DB for ECC utilized. Another DB can also be there, like Oracle database, DB2 database, MS SQL database, ASE database, lots of other database can also be there. But usually ECC will have much more bigger size of database compared to your archive database size. Since in archive server, you are only storing your invoice, and that is very specific, that is very limited amount of data you are putting there. So and that varies from customer to customer. Let's say if a customer is having lots many suppliers and lots many vendors, then definitely they will have to think about bigger size of database. But you can use any database with the OpenText archive server, be it your SQL archive server, be it your other database like Oracle DB2 also you can use. But there is a restriction. This ICC or BCC, that database will always have SQL database server. You can't use another database BCC. BCC is also a full stack application. So BCC is application, but under that BCC, you will be having another database called SQL Server. Why do we have database here? Since you are extracting the data from ECC, not basically ECC, you are extracting the data from archive server via ECC to BCC. And there you extract the data, you validate the data, you process the data, and that data will get processed or rather posted in SAP ECC system further. But let's say you are doing and you are using close to half an hour or 1 hour or more than 2 days for the validation, then definitely you should be having those data stored somewhere, right? Otherwise, what will happen, the moment you close your screen or your session, that data you won't be able to see further. Since that data has come from archive server via ECC for temporary purpose, which is why we are having a database on ICC as well, where you basically extract the data and you do the validation. So now, what is the role of archive server here? So the moment you send the invoice in ECC, archive server will have archive linked connected with your ECC, and that connection will happen through the certificate exchange. You will have to exchange the ECC certificate OpenText, and then only this entire integration will work. So let's say if you have sent that particular document to ECC, that document will go to OpenText archive server via the link which you have created, archive link in OAC0 transaction. So that data will basically, and usually OpenText archive server will have the file structure where your data will get stored. But yes, those file structure and those data you can't directly go there and you open as an email or as an invoice or as a text file. Those are the encrypted data which is stored in your OpenText archive server. Yes, you can browse that location where your data gets stored, but you won't be able to see the data as it is, since it got archived and it has got a certain level of encryption. So you can't decrypt those data in OpenText directly. Otherwise, there is no point of doing the ICC validation. People could have gone to OpenText archive server where the data is stored, simply open that, validate that. Then there is no point of this component at all, which is why this data is encrypted and nobody can go there and directly access that data. So this email has sent the invoice, that invoice has come to ECC. In ECC, it will check whether the archive link with the archive server is working fine. If it is working fine, then first of all, this invoice will get archived to SQL database as well as OpenText archive server. In the SQL database, directly all these archive data does not get stored. Basically, in SQL database, this database will basically store the user information. Like let's say XYZ user have logged into SAP ECC system, and that user has access to OpenText archive server, and that user information, user details, at what time that user logged in, what sort of activities that user has done, and how many time that user have logged in last 10 days. So those information, user related information, will store in a SQL database here, or Oracle or DB2 database you are having here. But this database will not be having the data of your invoice. Your archive data will be residing only on your archive server in the flat file format that you can't open rather. But yes, we will be showing you where the location where this entire your data of invoice gets stored. So I think I'm pretty much clear with the archive server. So basically archive server will have two components. One is server, another is a database. The database will have the user information and user details, login details rather. And OpenText archive server will have your all the invoice data, but that will be in the encrypted format. You can't open and check. Now, second thing, once your invoice gets archived on archive server level, now what will happen? Your status of the document. Let's say when you sent the document, then there is X status of that document. When that document is received by the outbound queue of SAP ECC, and that gets archived, once the archival is successful, then what will happen? Archive server will send the information to ECC that yes, your data got archived. Now what will happen? The document status will change from X to Y. Now system will be knowing your data as Y status since your data got archived. Now system will send this data to ICC OCR, that is your BCC server. This BCC server will have different application configuration done. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 applications you have configured. For let's say there is a purchase order or non-purchase order. There is a document type, different document type. There is a asset type. There is a different invoice you can categorize in different application format. Let's say you are having 100 invoice received in a day. You can categorize those invoices, whether those invoices are related to asset, whether those invoices are related to certain purchase order, whether those invoices are related to your document, certain document. So you can segregate those invoices as per your application, different application you are creating on the BCC end. So those applications you will have to create manually through an administrative client tool that is called customizing client tool, BCC customizing client tool. Those tool and those server you will have to install as an admin, and there you will be having the customizing client like different database have their different administrative client tool. In the same fashion, we are having the administrative client tool that is called customizing client here, through which you can create multiple applications. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 type of invoices you are getting from different vendors. So those different type of invoice, for each invoice type, you will be creating a application in BCC. And your data, let's say you have created a invoice type 1, and whatever you are sending, those invoice will get extracted only by application 1 you have created on ICC. Other application, let's say 2, 3, 4 are there. Even though 2, 3, 4 are running, but your 1 is not running, and you have sent the invoices type 1, that will not get extracted by ICC. So those segregation, those isolations are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 4 types of application you will have to create here. And accordingly, you will have to, that application basically is called hotspot. Different hotspots are there. So those hotspots you will have to create. And for each hotspot, you will have to do the configuration as per your requirement, as per your type of invoice. And those changes, let's say if you are making any changes on ICC or BCC end, the same changes you will have to push to ECC, so that your ECC and ICC or BCC are in sync. Both are knowing each other application and each other data. That let's say if you are changing anything in ECC, then you will have to send or push the data to ICC or BCC. If you are making any changes in BCC, the same changes you will have to push to SAP ECC, so that both the system are knowing that, and both the system are in sync basically. So those 4 set of application you will have to create here. Now let's say you have sent one invoice type 1. That invoice 1 will go to first outbound queue through the email configuration. From there will be a job that will trigger that job for further processing, and at the same time that job, that particular type of invoice will get archived by your archive server through archive link, which is already configured, and those configuration is done by your admin. Basically whoever is interested to do this entire thing will have to perform this entire activity, and from there it will get extracted to your BCC. Now how this extraction will happen, again this is automated. It's not something that you will have to, somebody will have to log in and do that extraction manually. Since let's say you don't know that at what time your invoice are going to push to your data, so to your system. Your supplier or your vendor can push your data anytime, right? 24/7 at any point of time. So, and you won't get notified for that. So in order to send the response back to your supplier or vendor quickly, the entire process should happen automatically into your system, which is why in ICC, in OCR, you will have different hotspots for each application. Let's say there is one application 1. So for each application, let's say for application 1, we will have 2 different hotspots. One hotspot will be responsible for the extraction, and another hotspot will be responsible for the download. So let's say you have sent invoice 1 that got archived. The same invoice will get extracted by your BCC. And how this extraction will happen? There will be a hotspot that which I have told you, that extracted hot. That extraction hotspot is nothing but it's a batch job. Again, that batch job will run every 1 minute or that depends how quick frequency you want to put in for that your job. Let's say that job is running every 30 seconds or 1 minute. What will happen? Every 1 minute, your ICC or BCC will connect to ECC and check whether any invoice has come or not. If any invoice is there and the status of that invoice is already extracted, this is very important. If that invoice is not extracted, this extraction will not happen. So in order to this extraction to happen, first your invoice should get archived. So once archived, then what will happen? This hotspot job will extract your invoice to BCC. And at the same time, in order to have the history of your invoice, BCC will also do the downloads of your extracted invoice on their own database server. And that can not be any other database except your SQL. Only SQL database will be there. So ICC is already extracted your invoice. Now you are having the same invoice archived or same invoice in your BCC. Now what will happen? Your validator will go. Let's say in your organization there is a 2 person who is there are 2 persons. One is validator, another is a processor. So validator will get notified. There are few set of documents pending in the extraction in the BCC that you need to validate. So let's say the extraction already happened and download is already happened. The same downloaded document will get notified to the validator. Validator will get notified through email. Validator will log into the ECC, this BCC server, and there is another tool called validation tool. The way I told you, there is a customizing tool, customizing client tool, that is part of administrator. Another tool is called validation tool. So a validator can log into validation tool and do the validation. And what validation it will do? It will validate with the data you are already having in the system. Let's say reference data you are already having archived. From there, it will validate whether the company ID is same, the invoice number is same, the amount is same, lots of other fields are there, and that fields you will have to train to your ICC definitely before getting received your invoice from customer, sorry, vendor. You will have to train your BCC that yeah, these are the data I am expecting from my so and so supplier or so and so vendor. So your BCC will have all those data intact. Let's say you have sent one invoice of type 1 and the BCC is already trained for invoice type 1. As a validator, you will be logging to the BCC and validate those data, those fields basically, and check whether the fields are as per our expectation or not. If it is same, then you can check OK, and that will go to the processor to process further. And the moment this processor gives go ahead, again this ICC and BCC will connect to ECC. You can see there is a two-way of communication for BCC and ECC. So now once validation and processing happen, ECC will have all this information and ECC will do the further processing like posting, and your data gets posted, the invoice gets posted to your ECC. So this is the entire flow of the email invoice posting in ECC via archive server and your BCC. Archive server will be having always one copy for any reference you want to have in your future for this particular invoice. So these were the steps for these three types: GUI, email, and your web user. Now fourth type is scanner. How this scanner will happen or will work basically for processing your invoice. So this scanner is basically integrated with your archive server directly, not to ECC, the way it was in these three scenarios. So since this is a physical device, this physical device integration you will have to perform in the OpenText archive server, so that your OpenText archive server is aware that yes, there a document can come from scanner to me, and then we can proceed further as it was happening in another three scenarios. So let's say you are a physical document, hard copy that you are scanning in your scanner. The scanner will check whether this and you definitely need to select the archive server here. In the option scanner you will be getting, there is a your icon you will be getting there. That icon you need to select. The moment you select that icon, the scanner will send that document to archive server. That again the same way it was happening in another three scenario. It will get archived first. It will, once it get archived, archive server will let ECC server know that yes, document got archived. Now you can proceed further. And now from here, the same process will repeat. So only difference here is that in case of enterprise scanner, you will have to send the document to archive server first, not to ECC. And in this, there is called document pipeline that comes between your scanner and your archive server. That document pipeline basically will check whether the document which you have scanned got processed by archive server further or not. So let's say in this scenario, if you have any issues for troubleshooting, you can check
Hello, Amit.
but you are not having, as an admin, you are not having any control that where to check. Since you got the confirmation from your supplier that document has already been sent, and you are checking your archive server that there is no data, there is no invoice got archived. So how you will be troubleshoot this entire communication? Since you can't go to vendor server or vendor scanner to do the troubleshooting, and you're not having the data in your OpenText archive server. So there is called document pipeline. That again, there is another component that you will have to install here in between your in between scanner and the OpenText archive server. In the document pipeline, it's nothing. It's a simple pipeline kind of concept where the all documents get queued up, and you can see that what are the steps that document has gone through. There are few steps. There are number of steps you will be able to see in that document pipeline. That particular component is also from OpenText only, but you will have to install that document or that add-on basically separately on your archive server itself. So you can launch that document pipeline info, basically that tool call, and there you can see what are the scanner document has come to your OpenText, and from there you can do the troubleshooting. There will be multiple steps involved. Those from those steps you can figure out what is the issue. So those are the different steps this hard copy of your invoice will go through for further processing. And once it gets archived, definitely the same steps which I have explained in these three scenarios will happen. So this is the basic architecture of automation of vendor invoice management in SAP system integrated with your OpenText. Now, once you will be seeing the step-by-step integration, definitely this is an overview. This is the basic understanding how this process happens. But once you will see the details, then you will have better idea that how does this entire thing work. All right. So anybody have any question, query, concern? We can proceed with that discussion now. Hello, am I audible? Shiva, Imran, Dinesh? Subbu?
Yes, you are audible.
All right, so I hope you guys heard me correctly, what I was explaining.
Yeah, yes, Amit. Yeah, that was quite informative on the overview of the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Right, so if anybody is having any sort of queries, questions, concerns, we can discuss in another 10 minutes and then we can close it.
So Amit, this is Dinesh. Is there any way that you can show us the OpenText software open right now, just to take an overview of it?
No, there is a challenge. OpenText, I think Subbu can comment on this part, since I'm not having my own system where I can show you. But if I will having the access to the server, then I can hover down to all those details, and I can basically help you out with the all this integration in live system. But yes, for that we need to have the system intact, and nowadays this is something which is very confidential, since if I let you show the customer system, that's not possible, and that customer system is having lots of confidential data. Basically, it's a cost invoice involved, which is why it's not recommended. But yes, if we are having any demo system where we are having SAP, where we are having BCC, where we are having archive server, then I can do the entire installation, integration, configuration, validation, and one-to-one flow. I can make you understand and show you also that how does it work.
So, so in that case, then we'll be only going on the theoretical part of this, right? From SAP to OpenText.
theoretical part. And one thing I can help you guys, that I can make a document for you with all the screenshot, but definitely I'll be removing all the confidential data of that customer, and I'll create a demo application there, and then I can share that document, informative document for you. But yes, for that, if you all are agreed that we can proceed by this way, since it's not at all easy to get the access of this entire system. Let's say SAP itself has got their own restricted configuration for the VIM, vendor invoice management. But in any case, let's say Subbu is able to arrange that, then we are okay with proceeding. We are okay with the entire live integration and live configuration and practical session which we are talking about. But yes, at the moment, as far as my commitment to Subbu is concerned, I can take the different application, different integration, whatever I have discussed here. I'll take the screenshot and I can discuss each and every screenshot. That is more or less same, right? Any which way, if let's say I'm having the access of that particular system, then definitely you will not be allowed to perform that activity. Then only one person can create that application. Else, let's say OpenText person is having their own demo system, and SAP is also having their own demo system. That definitely that those sessions and those access is there, but they usually create those software, those integration, those application just for the sake of training, and they charge a lot for that. I mean, that is something beyond our expectation, how much they charge. So that part I can help with the documentation part, that I can make a document. You guys can discuss multiple times you want that what is this application, how does this got integrated, what I can make the different icons there also for your understanding. But as far as application and practical sessions are concerned, I think that is not possible.
Okay, so yeah, that is what I was looking for, if there are any hands-on that we can do.
No, unfortunately, we are not having those server access, Dinesh. Hands-on, you can, but for that, again, I have told you that is very, I can connect with OpenText and SAP guy who will be giving you the access for, let's say 1 week or 2 weeks, where you can do your hands-on. But let's say, as per my experience, I have been in this industry for last 10 years. As far as interview goes for OpenText and archive server, basically they will talk about your theoretical knowledge, and there is no rocket science at all here. How many times you go through that document, that matters. Now, when you join a project or let's say a customer where you will have to perform these activities, I have already worked upon at least 10 to 11 projects for archive server integration. But let me tell you, I also have to go through that document first before I take any sort of configuration. Now, if you are really interested, then I can help you out with that link where you can enroll yourself and you can do the hands-on, but that will be charging you a handsome amount. That is for sure.
Okay, thanks, Amit.
No problem.
Hey, Dinesh, I have a suggestion here. Shiva here. So basically, what Amit said about having access to the OpenText system is absolutely correct. You will not find, I can say it 100%, you will not find any of OpenText test or demo systems available on the market. Yeah, you can find a lot of SAP ECC access, HANA access, or whatever version you want to, you can. But OpenText, no, it's not possible. In this case, what you can do, what I did earlier was to have my own VM on my PC and ask for the SAP provider to open up their SAP router to internet, so I can connect with my own virtual machine on my PC and then do the transaction. That you can do.
Okay.
But yeah, it is a tedious process. It's not very straightforward. But maybe Amit will be able to help you on that.
Okay. Thanks, Shiva, for that information.
But yeah, I need to warn you, getting the binaries, installation binaries is also not very straightforward. You cannot simply go to OpenText, subscribe, and then ask for a software to download. No, that won't help you. You need to have someone inside OpenText, whether your colleagues or friends or someone, or if your company is already having OpenText, then you should be able to register with your company's email. Then you'll get to access all the components. Right, Amit?
So that's right. That's right. If you are working for certain customers, that would be really helpful, and I can guide you that what are the software you need to download. But yes, since I have worked on multiple projects, I have worked for multiple customers, then I can give you the step by step. That is also not available in the market for very sure, since and that definitely I'll be working for you guys if you are interested further. Then I'll be making those documents, keeping all the customer information aside. But since OpenText integration since Shiva can also comment, since he is already working on the OpenText area. So this OpenText have multiple other products where they are working since long time. But as far as archive server and BCC, this is the hot cake of their entire product lot. So these two servers access they do not give directly. In fact, as rightly Subbu said, that they don't give this access as a demo to any system or any students or any organization rather, since they are alone nothing, and at the same time SAP is also alone nothing for this entire integration. So they have their own partnership agreed, and they can share their own installation media file, the integration. So if you are having basic understanding of this entire IT structure, this installation, if you have worked, let's say, at least 1 or 2 installation of SAP system or any Microsoft product, that would be pretty simple and straightforward. In fact, I can help you out with that document also, that how you will be installing your OpenText, your archive server, your BCC server, your document pipeline, your scanner. How do you configure? Basically, this entire automation is something which is very important. Let's say if you are going to work for any customer requirement will be pretty straight, that they will be looking for. Nowadays everything happens for the sake of automation, so they are more into automation. How do you do this automation? How do you present to them that how this automation will work? So as far as installation and other hands-on, which you rightly pointed out, it's not very tedious and very tough, I must say, but configuration and understanding the concept and how does this automation work, that is very important. But yes, there is a note here that if you are completely new to IT industry, and I don't think that is possible nowadays, you yourself install multiple software on your mobile phone or your PC every now and then. So that is as simple as installing or rather updating your operating system, your mobile or your laptop. Pretty simple English language will be there, that these are the cons, these are the pros, you will have to accept, you will have to configure, you will have to put the certain names, you will have to put certain IP address, certain specific information to your SAP or BCC server, that's all. And the entire thing will happen in a minute. But only thing is that how does this entire flow work? How you will be troubleshooting that? That is important for entire Vim configuration.
Okay, that
But
sounds
if
a lot of work to me. So, Amit, just one more question. Do you have any experience in IES, that is Information Extraction Service?
Information extraction service of Microsoft?
No, it's IES OpenText. IES in OpenText Information Extraction Service for SAP Solutions.
OpenText IES, no. Sorry, I'm not aware about this service. But I think this service could have been used in BCC for the extraction, which we are talking about. From the name, it suggests that some sort of extraction services they are having. But are you talking about IES is a separate product for OpenText or it's a service?
Amit, IES actually has been replaced by ICC OCR.
Yeah, and ICC called
Like,
now it's called BCC.
No, the scenario you took is part of BCC invoice, right? But if you're talking about sales order or HR delivery orders, then we need IES for that. So that's what Dinesh is talking about.
All right. Basically, this is a server where you are having multiple services that I haven't talked about. Definitely for that, you will have to go into the depth that what are the other services which you need to check whether those services are up and running. Definitely, in order to let BCC run successfully or correctly, that set of service should be up and running. Like DocuStar are there. Not some like for example on OpenText you need to have your spawner or your other services which is very important for your web service call that should be up and running. So IES, as Siva told, that is something for the extraction. As I also guessed that this extraction happens through BCC. That is a part of your entire SAP server. So we can log into the server and we can check those services for sure.
Dinesh, is that clear, or you need some more explanation on that?
No, I guess I'm fine for now. Thanks.
No. What I meant is, actually, this whole discussion is revolving around vendor invoice, actually. So IES we don't use for vendor invoice. We use for other recognition like sales orders, delivery orders, HR letters, and there's one more. I don't remember. Okay, so for that we use IES, but that is also part of BCC only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this whole industry and this whole software is a new path for me. So I'm kind of learning. I have to learn from the scratch. So I got so many questions, and I think it's okay for me for right now. I can take this information for now and move.
Yeah. As Amit said, once you understand the basic flow for the Vim, then you'll be able to apply it for others, right? So that is important. So this.
Yeah, that is what I was looking at, right?
All right, so guys, do we have any further question?
Amit, I have a question actually. By this time, you might have understood what my expectations are. Okay, so basically, I'm looking at the functional and technical part of Vim on SAP. So whatever we have discussed right now in the demo session was actually a part of OpenText components, right? So are you going to cover the Vim configuration also? Defining the process type, defining the document types, defining exceptions, and other functional PO and PO scenarios. I mean, non-PO scenarios.
Correct. Your question is very valid, and that is something I had already conveyed to Subbu, that I am a technical consultant. I'm not a functional consultant. So the entire configuration of technical part only I'll be covering. I'll not be covering the functional part, since that is not my expertise. But yes, I can help you out with the document where the step-by-step functional configuration is there. And I was leading a entire project where this entire functional integration done by my teammate. So that document I can share, but yes, I cannot explain what is that particular configuration is about, since I'm not having any expertise or any sort of information about that. So I'll be basically covering, in short, I'll be covering, first of all, the installation of all the system, all the components here. Second thing is the post-installation steps are there. That is more or less techno-functional in nature, I must say. It's not completely functional or it's not completely technical. So post-installation will be there. Third will be the integration. And fourth will be the BCC application configuration. So these are the four ways, 4 steps through which I'll be going the entire. I'll be doing this entire session of.
Oh, okay.
So the answer to your question. So answer to your question for the functional area is yes. I'm not going to cover that.
Okay.
So this would be completely technical in nature.
So are you okay to share the functional document which you are mentioning, right? But through Subbu only. Later on, we can connect and discuss on the formalities.
Yes, I can check. I can check whether, again, the same thing is that whatever the document I'm having, that is not the standard document. That is the document of a certain customer, And again,
I understand. I understand. Basically, I'm looking for a scenario guide actually. Documentation I don't need. I have access to KC already. So yeah, this is what I'm looking at. Scenario configuration.
Yeah, that part.
We could call it a run book, right?
Kind of run book. Yep. That I can share with you. That part I can share with you.
All right. I don't have any questions then anymore.
So I was speaking to Siva or Imran, right?
No. You're speaking to me, Shiva.
Siva, all right, Siva. So I'll be sharing the functional details again as a run book. But yes, let me check those documents if any confidential data is shared in that document or not. If it is there, then definitely it's going to be challenging for me to share with you. But if it's not there, let's say if regular screen print and regular informations are there, then definitely I'll share those step-by-step document of them also. And it's not something which is very critical. Definitely, if you have worked ever as a functional person, you can understand that document pretty well. And that document basically got prepared by SAP guys, not by any other vendors. So directly SAP had done those functional configuration till now in 2 or 3 projects I have worked upon for OpenText and SAP VIM integration. So those information, let me check if it is there, then I can help you with that document. Else, the run book where the steps are defined, that definitely I can share with you.
Yeah, that works for me, Amit. Fine.
All right, Subbu, are you there?
Hello? Yeah, sir. Tell me.
Yeah, so I think we do not have any more question left.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can wind up today. So I will ask the students and let me inform you.
All right, just let me know and then we can discuss further.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you.
Subbu,